Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Marla Anderson, who is here on behalf of Providence Mission Hospital. Well, Dr. Anderson, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, we are in the midst of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's very important for everyone to pay attention to this. Even men, I've talked to several different doctors who talk about how men now are showing up having breast cancer as well. So, with that in mind, what are some of the important things that we should remember during this time?
I think the most important thing is to focus on prevention and early detection.
Okay.
So, mammograms have been shown to save lives by early detection, and that's the goal. I think that some women get confused that mammograms are preventative, but they don't prevent cancer. They just early detect cancer. We do recommend once a year screening starting at age 40, although there's some varying guidelines out there. I think anybody that practices breast and takes care of women with breast cancer recommends once a year screening beginning at age 40, hopefully with a 3D mammogram, which is improved detection and decreased callback rate for patients.
Right.
So first, though, before that, I would say prevention and knowing your risk. So, we all want to stay healthy and make the right choices. And it really is so important,
right,
especially as we age. And then knowing your risk, kind of where do you fall in that category? Or doctors, can help kind of sort out that risk. My office can help sort out that risk. We look at many different variables that add to risk, and we use some tools that help us calculate the risk. If women fall into a high risk category, then we offer more frequent screening, more frequent exams, kind of conversation about risk reduction. And I think a lot of women, especially if you have a family history, a lot of women know they're at high risk, but then that causes them to maybe avoid looking into that further because it's a little scary.
Right.
But we know that early detected breast cancer is highly curable, very treatable. And so that's really our goal. We don't want to find a lump. We want to find, something that's small that we can't feel. We want to detect it early.
There are a few myths, I think, out there. And one thing I think is interesting is that, they changed the age from, I believe it was 50 to 40. But, there are some things, like you mentioned, that you should do prior to age 40 for early prevention. Are there myths that we should be aware of before that age?
Well, I think some of the myths are that, one, if you don't have a family history, you're not at risk. So genetic risk is really only about 5 to 10% of the breast cancer. So the large majority of women diagnosed with breast cancer do not have a family history, and there's no, known genetic risk that would have been passed down. As we age, our cells change and they get older, and that's really where the risk comes in. But it doesn't mean that women in their 20s and 30s don't get breast cancer. So I think just breast awareness starting in your 20s is really important. And then it's even more important if you have a family history. So if you have a strong family history or you test positive for a certain genetic mutation, we start early screening in your 20s. We start that early.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about the genetic testing. So is that something that is discussed with your primary doctor as you approach a certain age?
I think it's based on family history more than anything. So it's going to be family history driven, and you can kind of see a pattern, and you may fall into a pattern where you're at risk for a certain genetic mutation. I think a lot of primary physicians, family medicine doctors, gynecologists are very well aware now of the need to look at genetic risk and then refer or offer that testing. And test positive, it's important to speak with a genetic counselor to talk about what's recommended. Really, it's screening. So if you're at a high risk for whatever disease you test positive for, then it's taking advantage of more frequent screening and have early detection.
Okay, great, good information. In general, for all of our sakes, whether it's breast cancer or any kind of cancer, what are some things that we should keep in mind about keeping healthy?
We've said it for years, and it's eating a good diet because, I think especially Americans don't eat well.
Mhm.
A whole food, non-processed diet is so important, but it's really hard to do in our environment, our, busy, stressful American lifestyle. But if we eat good food 3 or 4 times a day, that's anti-cancer, I mean, you're really helping yourself.
Right.
And we hear it all the time. It's just that it's really hard to take that step to eat well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
For
true.
so many reasons, but just, something in a package, we don't want to eat that. We want to shop periphery. We want whole food, getting back to the basics, just, so I think it's really focusing on that. That is just a huge step.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
And of course, staying active is also very difficult to do
Yeah.
because here we are. I mean, I don't walk that much during the day when I'm sitting at my desk, so it's really hard to do. So what are some things that you would suggest?
Well, I think you have to just make the time for it. You have to make the commitment. I mean, there's no way around it. Now, I take the stairs at work. If I have time at lunch, I'll go do stairs. I mean, anything to keep the body moving. So exercise not only maintains our weight, which decreases risk for cancer and breast cancer, but the exercise itself actually releases anti-cancer factors, actual molecules that are anti-cancer. So the exercise is kind of multifactorial, many benefits, from multiple angles, but we have to do it again. I mean, it's making the commitment and carving out the time. And, we don't we're not like Greece. We don't get those wonderful siestas, and, we're just very busy. It's just the way so it's making the time and carving it out.
Exactly. All right. Well, any last things you'd like to remind us about Breast Cancer Awareness Month?
I think mostly just making sure you take the time to go get that screening mammogram, because even that's hard to do, to carve out the time to do it. We tend not to take care of ourselves sometimes because we're busy. So prioritizing yourself, using the month of October as the time to remind yourself to go get that screening mammogram, because it does save lives and it's so important, and just breast awareness in general. So
perfect. All right, Dr. Anderson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after this.